Yes. Okay, welcome. We've got Chris, who is a computer science student at University of Washington, and he is telling us about what it's like to be him. And he was just telling us about his data structures class and how that's a pretty standard thing within computer science. So will you tell us a little bit about that again?
Sure. I mean, I just took it this summer because I'm not taking classes this fall and I didn't want to get too far behind. So I just took it just by itself, one class. Just finished my final this morning. Yeah, it went good. The class overall, I mean, I don't know if you want me to get into like the details of what it's about. It's just teaching you a lot about the data structures that are like used standardly in computer science, and then like algorithms that are pretty important to know. And so it's all pretty like useful information for passing technical interviews for like pretty much most internships and jobs that you're going to have. If you want to work as a software engineer, you have to do a technical interview or multiple technical interviews where they ask you coding questions and you solve the question in a time limit, whatever. So this class has like a lot of the knowledge that's pretty important for solving the problems that you typically see in those interviews. So that's why I took it now.
Awesome. Great. And I know you're doing an internship in the fall. And was that a prerequisite for doing the internship?
No. Yeah, so I'm not taking classes in the fall because I'm doing full-time internship. It wouldn't have been a prerequisite. It's just I wasn't working this summer, wasn't doing anything. And it would be a class where like everything that I would learn would probably be pretty useful for like my work in that internship. So it was just like a personal decision to take it, but it's definitely like helpful for that. And also I need to interview, hopefully I need to be interviewing this fall for next summer internships. So I wanted to get that class done.
Gotcha. Patrick, I have one more follow-up question to that. And so you be thinking about what are your questions, okay? So Chris, how did you go about getting this internship that's in the fall instead of classes? And is that fairly standard for a sophomore at UW's computer science?
Okay, so how I went about it, I can start with that. It's pretty much just applying for like as many as you can get. Like when you're a freshman, you don't really have, for most of us, I don't know, personally, I didn't really have many of like a lot of technical experience, like wouldn't really be competitive against a lot of people who are applying for internships. So you just got to apply for a lot. A lot of people don't know this, but I knew it because my sister, all the big tech companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, their internship programs, they specifically have like freshman internships that are meant for freshmen to be applying for. So those are the ones that you typically want to shoot for because like you're more qualified for it. But they open their internship applications. They usually open up actually right about like now. I haven't looked into it for this year, but they usually open up late August, like even before school starts at UW. So, and you want to apply as soon as possible because they're almost all like rolling basis acceptance. So the earlier you apply, the better your chances are. So I applied for the one I'm doing in the fall, Amazon. I applied for summer actually. Ended up getting like a call back. Not till I applied in like August or September, and I didn't get a call back until like March of the next year. Then I had to go through the interview process. There's like a few rounds, and I got to the last interview, and then they told me that they ran out of spots for the summer. So that was unfortunate. I would have rather have done the summer internship. Obviously, it just fits better for your schedule. But they told me they were out of internships for the summer, but they offered to put me on the waiting list. And then I got an email a little bit later saying I could apply for the fall and it would be expedited. So that's what I did. And then they just gave me the internship without having to interview again. So that was really nice.
That is really nice.
And if that's typical, I don't know many people. I think more typical would be doing a summer internship. But after the summer, after a freshman year, I'd say it's sort of like maybe 50-50 on how many people have internships and how many people don't. I don't know. The people that I know who aren't doing internships are either, just working and like studying and working on personal projects, side projects, or some of my friends are doing research at UW Labs this summer. So I guess that's like, I don't know what the actual numbers are, but
Yeah.
it's not like super uncommon or common, I guess, for people to have internships after their freshman year.
And so are you the only one who you know of who's doing a fall internship instead of going to class?
I'm the only UW student I know who's doing that.
Okay. And is that gonna mess up your, I don't know, is there a cohort part of the CS program or anything like that?
No. I mean, I took a bunch of AP classes.
Mhm.
So like credit wise, I'd be good to graduate by the end of my junior year anyways. So it's not really gonna mess me up in that way. And that's like this path I'm on is sort of a path a lot of people are on. It's very like if you do the standard taking 2 CS classes a quarter, like schedule that most people do, then most people can finish out in 4 years pretty easily. I think that's, yeah, in general, depending on like where you start on, but yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for answering my whole string of questions.
No worries.
Here's Patrick. Patrick, do you have any questions?
Yeah, sure. Are you in any clubs that you do?
Um, not not really like actively participating. I'd say a lot of the and this I think this is probably true with a lot of clubs at most schools, but there's a lot of tech RSOs, or they're called RSOs, or like registered student organizations, but they're basically clubs. Um, there's a lot of like CS RSOs and stuff, and I haven't joined and like actively participated much in any of them, so I can't speak too much to a lot of them, but I know that some of them, it's sort of like you need to pick ones that are actually going to be helpful, because some of them are very ambitious where it's like, okay, we're going to put you 5 people together and you're going to do a project for the year, and then from what I've heard, like, okay, it doesn't really happen a lot of the times. But some of the, I forget the names of them, but there are RSOs at UW for computer science that are like pretty helpful. They look good on your resume, and they also like give you like good experience like working on projects. But no, I'm only in one called like Software Careers Club, and I haven't even gone to a meeting, so not really, no.
Uh, uh, Thanks. I guess second question.
Yeah.
You work on any personal projects yourself?
such a such a tough question. Yeah, the personal projects. So I'll say yes and no. Um, right now I'm not really working on it. I just finished with this class. I was actually Ezra and Daniel and I were actually supposed to be working on building this basically this backend like this website tool for this organization he works with called Code Justice. We were gonna take this course and learn Django and like make this website for them this summer, but we haven't really put in the work that we were supposed to. So I don't even know if we're still doing that one, but in general with the side projects, they are really important. And I've done smaller ones, but I haven't done any that I don't know, consider like a full like capstone project or any big ones. And that's definitely something that I know I need to do and should do. Because they
Is
are
there,
really, yeah.
is there support for it, or is it you're supposed to just go out and do it on your own on top of all your coursework?
Um, I'd say it's you are pretty much on your own for it. And that's what makes it hard, because when you're spending a lot of time like working on your classes, it's really hard to finish up like, because it is a good amount of work for a lot of these classes. It's really hard to finish up doing all your homework and your projects for the week and then be motivated to go completely on your own, no schedule, really just start writing your own code. So it really has to, it has to be something that you really like want to do. So for example, the one I was going to start working on, but then I got really distracted this summer. I was going to start, I really like watching basketball and like the NBA. So I was going to design my own advanced stat, which is just like advanced stats are just like, you know, measuring how good a player is overall or something, some sort of thing like that, with an algorithm, and make a website that could generate that for different players for different games. And I found that when I was starting working on that, it went a lot easier because I was actually interested in doing it, and it wasn't just something I was doing to do. But I have done interviews, and they have asked about projects, and I do have projects on my resume. And what people do for those, and usually, is we do a lot of projects in our classes. So you'll do a lot of like pretty decent large scale projects for your classes, and it's pretty much totally fine to put those on your resume and use those to talk about in interviews. So if you don't have any great side projects, it's not like you're like stuck out to dry, because I got through my interviews fine, and honestly not having like great side projects or like great extracurricular like outside of my classes CS stuff, even though that is typically like what people recommend you do. I don't know if that answers your
Thank
question.
you.
I know that is. Thank you. Yeah.
Did you have other things, Patrick? I think I'm wondering, and I'm wondering if you're wondering about how Chris went about the applying to University of Washington Computer Science program, and whether he has any advice for people in your stage who are getting ready to apply.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Are you a junior?
Yeah. Well,
And
rising senior.
Almost a senior.
Rising senior. And you live in Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. It's like the number one most important thing you could do is live in Washington, because it's really hard to get in out of state.
Yeah.
Yes. Yesterday, I heard that the acceptance rate for out of state is 3% for the computer science program, which is more selective than almost any kind of school anywhere.
Yeah.
And for in-state, it last year was 23% acceptance rate.
Yeah, that's about like what it was when I was looking at it. So yeah, that's one thing about the CS program, is you are going to meet people who got in from out of state or like international students. And if they got in, it usually means they're really good because it's hard to get in. But applying for UW, I don't know. They're test blind now, I think. So obviously the SAT scores and stuff don't matter. So I do think GPA is pretty important. If you have any CS classes you can take next year, I think that's probably something helpful. Like I took as many CS classes at Garfield as I could, which was just 2, but that's still 2. The essays for the CS program, I don't think, no, there weren't specific essays. So specifically for CS, I would say, and this is the advice I wish I could give my younger self, it's a lot easier to be impressive compared to your peers. Not that it's easy, but it's easier to like do the standard for like a high school student for being like an impressive CS student is really just like if you have one side project, that'd be great. Like things like that. So differentiating yourself now and like rising above your peers now is a lot easier than doing it once people get to college and everyone starts taking it a lot more seriously. So I mean, one of the things I did, I like I said, I was taking this machine learning course online for free. If you could do anything outside of school to like show that you care about computer science or you're interested in it, if you have a compelling reason for why you want to do computer science, or if at least you can talk about one. I don't even know if I was super compelled to do computer science, but you got to make it sound like you are. I don't know. Those are the big things, I guess.
Did
Sure.
you specifically address computer science in your application? Do you remember?
I could pull it up right now. My essays. I think what it was is UW has an essay. UW has an essay. I thought they had an essay where you had to talk about why you're choosing
Mhm.
your
What
major. So that's
communities Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the one where you want to, yeah. So that is, if I'm remembering correctly and they had that essay, then that would be the one where I direct.
What they have, Chris, is they have the overall personal statement, tell us the story from your life and how it shaped you and that kind of stuff. But then they also have one that's about tell us about the communities that you come from, or that like lots of communities influence us, and how will you connect with communities at University of Washington, that kind of thing.
That's what it was. Oh yeah, so they didn't actually have that major one then.
Right.
Huh. I could pull up my essay for the communities ones. It's pretty short. I remember I wrote about just being multiracial and having been into China a lot, and you know, having a Chinese mom, and there's a large Chinese international population at UW, and like talked about trying to like connect or bridge gaps between the communities at UW because they are super segregated. That's what I talked about. I don't know. I might have been trying to been a little cheeky and like snuck in some CS thing into that essay, but that wouldn't have been the main focus. So yeah, I guess I didn't write too much about computer science then. So I guess if you want to demonstrate interest, it needs to be in your classes and extracurriculars in some way. Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of personal statement did you write? Do you remember anything about that?
Yeah, so my personal statement was it had nothing to do with computer science actually. It was just it was a story about like losing my confidence, or like not losing confidence, like learning to like get over things and not be so anxious and worried all the time. So I talked about getting mugged and not playing trumpet for a while, stuff like that. So it wasn't super related to CS. In all honesty, I don't think the essay was like anything special. I don't think it got me in anywhere. I think it was just like a decent, solid essay. And I don't know how much, I mean, you're the admissions expert. I'm not sure how much UW puts weight on their essays.
Yeah.
I'm really not sure.
It sounded like yesterday in this, I went to a session with the director of admissions at University of Washington, and that they're really, 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 really emphasizing your courses, your grades, where you come from, like what kind of school you come from, and your family's sort of context. It sounded like was a big thing. And then yes, of course, your essays are important to them, and then they're not going to tell you they're not important to them. They are, and your activities and how you spend your time. But they're big into those other factors. So I thought that was interesting to know.
Yeah, it always seemed like GPA was pretty important at UW. I'm not sure how I got that impression, but like,
yeah, I think it is. And not just GPA, but like in which classes did you get good grades? And so, but what's hard, and then the other thing I learned yesterday, just so we're putting this on the record is that if you put computer science down, they're back to now saying that you have to choose either computer science or engineering, and you only get one of those, and then your second choice, if it could be something that you sincerely are interested in studying and it's not constrained, then that might help. But if you are not interested in anything that isn't constrained, basically you only want constrained majors, then they say go ahead and put them down, because they don't think you're going to come anyway. Like if you don't get into the ones that you really want to go to, they think you're going to go somewhere else anyway. So you might as well put down what you really want, unless you want to go purple or nothing. Like, you want to be a Husky no matter what, even if it means you're majoring in classics. So, I mean, classics is a great major, in case anybody else is listening to this, but anyway.
I think I put down, because I wasn't purple or nothing. I put down I put down informatics as my second major.
Yeah,
that's the one it's like somewhat similar to, I don't even actually know too much about it. My mom just told me to do it, but it's
yeah. Well, I was gonna say, that's a hot major too.
And yeah, I don't know if you're thinking about picking between computer science or engineering. But I'd say unless you specifically have some reason that you're interested in engineering, like you have some reason to be interested in hardware, I don't know if I think computer science, if you want to work in, you could do either one really, but I think computer science is probably just an easier major to get through from what I've
Hmm.
heard.
That's interesting. So you're saying the people who are doing engineering, it's a harder slog, like the classes are harder and the grading is harder.
Kind of like what I'd assume because they're in the engineering school. And they have, I mean, most of the classes they take are like kind of this, like most of what they take is the same, but I think the requirements they have to graduate, they have to do like some capstone thing or something. It just sounds worse. I don't actually know if it is worse. It probably
Okay.
doesn't make a big difference, but yeah.
Okay.
And don't you have to do a capstone too?
We don't have to do any capstone projects unless I don't know about it. Which would be bad. I don't know. To graduate, I just have to take the core classes and then some 400 levels. It's just like a certain amount of CS classes I take, and then I'm satisfied the degree requirements.
Are there other questions, Patrick, you came in with? We've got a few more minutes.
No, no questions.
Are there, Chris, I wonder, how many folks are you meeting who are Seattle Public Schools students within the CS path?
I didn't I'm not sure how many people, like I have not done a great job honestly of like meeting a lot of CS majors. I
Okay.
have like a few close friends. I know for a lot of people out here, a lot of people are from Bellevue and Redmond. I think there's a lot of like tech parents out there and really ambitious like high school kids. But then there's definitely a good amount. Like I know, yeah, I wouldn't say that Seattle Public Schools is underrepresented. I know I definitely meet like a good amount of people. People from Garfield too are in CS, and people I knew from middle school that I just see. I don't even talk to them a lot of the time, but I recognize them and I know they went to like Garfield or Roosevelt.
How about Cleveland?
I can't think of anyone in particular,
Mhm.
but I don't even know a single person who goes to Cleveland. So except this
Well, now
like
you know. Now you know somebody right here in this room. So, okay. All right. Well, let's see. Is there anything else we should be smart enough to ask you? Anything we should be asking you?
I was thinking, try to get Calc BC done in high school if you can.
That is really important for me to know. Say more.
Really?
Is there,
Huh? What,
I was gonna say, is there a reason?
Yeah. So I actually did get Calc BC done. I took it, but I took it over COVID. Didn't really like learn the second half of the material that well. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna be smart and I'm gonna not, because I had the AP score to pass. So for CS, you need math 124, 125, and 126. And those are it's just Calc 1 through 3. And it's like they're, in my opinion, and in like most of people's opinions, like not fun classes. But especially bad is 125, which is it's Calc 2. It's like the equivalent to Calc BC. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna retake it so that I'm prepared for 126 and I'm gonna be all like responsible and smart. But 125 is, first of all, like the content is way harder than what they make you do in like AP classes, AP BCs. So if you can get through Calc BC in high school and be done with it, then you're not gonna have to like do all the really hard stuff in 125. And for 126, pretty much, actually, I think nothing you learn in 125 is like a prerequisite for 126, or like very, very little. Like you could touch up on it and a lot less effort than it would take to retake the whole class. So if you have the credit, if you can get the Calc BC credit done, I would definitely suggest just going to 126, as long as you feel like, decently solid on Calc, which you would have to be if you got a good enough score on the AP test. So that's one big mistake I made, because I took Calc 2. So I took that my first quarter, and it was super challenging. It ended up being like a lot of work for me, and the classes are a lot more stressful than like your in major CS classes, because the calc series is a weed out class for like a lot of majors. So the curve is down to, it's like a 2.7. That's the average GPA for the class. And then you have like a final that's worth 40% of your grade and 2 midterms. I don't want to scare you here, but like it's
No, I
all
wanna know.
tests. Yeah, it's all tests, and it's and the reason why it's designed to be a weed out is because it's a lot of majors at UW are capacity constrained. So there's a lot of people who are constantly trying to do the best as they can in their classes to apply to the majors so they get in. And calc is like a pretty important or a prerequisite for a lot of majors to apply. So they grade it harshly so that they can, differentiate people, I guess. And they also kind of, want to weed. This is like the dark side of UW is that they want to weed people out of some of the harder majors because a lot of people want to do, CS, info, I don't know, the engineering majors, business school. So the classes that you take, like the classes I took at the start of my freshman year, so they're basically the calc classes that weren't my in major classes, were the content isn't harder, but like the curve is a lot harder. I found myself like, it's just, you have to care more about it. It's a lot more stressful. So I really wish I would have just skipped 125 and gone straight to 126. And the other reason for that is because you can't take this one, basically there's like a chain of prerequisites. You can't take this one CS class called CSE 311 until you finish the calc series. And you can't take the class that I just took this summer, this data structures class, that's pretty important, until you take 311. So I basically got log jammed, like backed up an extra quarter on taking this data structures class that I really wanted to take because it's important for industry, because I was one class further behind in calc than I needed to be. If that makes sense. It really, like, it's not going to end up being a big deal at all. It was just like kind of frustrating at the time.
That's super helpful. Thank you. Garfield anyway. I don't know Cleveland. Is Cleveland offering BC?
No,
Yeah, Garfield's not offering BC either right now. So
Okay.
like as of this year.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to, I don't want to hype it up too much. I actually I got a worse grade in Calc 3 than I did in Calc 2. And in some ways, like just going in and like getting that college class shock, I guess, where you're going to get your first like STEM classes and they're going to be harder probably than any classes you had in high school. It's just sort of necessary.
How much does, like, I don't know what grade you got in Calc 2 or Calc 3, but like, how much does getting a not perfect grade affect your life?
Okay. Well, see, I got a 4.0 in Calc 2 and then a 3.5 in Calc 3. And I've been like pretty diligent about my GPA so far. I have like a 3.91 right now. So I've been like really focused on my grades. And if you like, what I'm saying is in the major classes, they're curved to like 3.5s. So if you're doing just all right, you're still going to get a 3.5 and be fine. And for me, what most people say for CS, because like I'm in my major, so my grades don't really matter that much at the end of the day. Like I have to graduate. It'd be much more, I want to keep my GPA above a 3 because for, your resume and for some internships and stuff, they do care about your GPA somewhat, but it wouldn't make that big of a deal for me. Like I wasn't stressing my finals this much this quarter, very much at all, because the reality is like, once you're in, like I'm trying to work in industry, I want to work as a software engineer. There's a lot of other things that are just as important or more important than your GPA, like, side projects, just technical skills, networking, things like that. So GPA, like most people agree that no employer is going to care about the difference between like a 3.5 and a 4.0 really, or like a 3.5 and a 3.8, things like that. So I don't stress my GPA that much. Usually what I've been doing is I take 2 STEM classes, so like a math class or a CS class, and those are like my 2 ones I actually have to focus on. And then I've been taking like psych. I take 2 psych classes. I took required writing class, and those classes all ended up being like incredibly easy. I got like like really like maybe 30 minutes of work a week, including lectures, because you don't even have to go. So that makes life a lot like a lot easier. That's what I would recommend if you do end up going to UW is take the 2 classes that you need to take to progress, and then take the easiest 3rd class possible every quarter. But no, I don't worry about my GPA that much.
And so the standard these days is 3 classes a quarter?
If so, it's 12 to 18 credits is what you want to take, and then
Yeah.
classes are like 4 to 5. The thing is, some of the classes that are like 3 or 4 credits, the STEM classes, will be a lot more work than
Yeah.
like the 5 credit, social studies.
Humanities. Yeah. Mhm.
So 3
So for
classes.
STEM, it's 3. Okay, that's helpful to know.
Yeah, I think 3 is pretty much standard. And then some people do like seminars, and there's some people who do a bunch, but 3 is
Mhm.
pretty
Yeah.
standard.
Okay.
I
Okay.
had-
Do
I had
you have
one-
more
one-
questions, Patrick?
Yeah, it's just one question.
Sure.
So in like the CS classes, how is like work done? Is it like you write code and then like an auto grader checks it? Is that like a homework?
It's like depends class to class. So some of the classes like the first classes you'll take if you haven't like the intro classes, it's like a coding project, and you'll turn it in, and you'll pretty much know if it's working before you turn it in. So you'll know if you're going to get full points on the project before you turn it in, but then they'll grade it for like your style, which is like, yeah, you can get it to work, but did you do it effectively, I guess. Sometimes there's like handwritten assignments. Like we have to do classes. I had to do a class that's just like a theory class, where it's all like discrete math and logic. So it doesn't really have anything to do with computers. Like not every computer science class you take, you're going to be turning in assignments like as code. But then a lot of them, yeah, like you'll get a take-home project and you'll work on it for a couple weeks, and then you'll turn it in, and that'll be how it goes. And those are the more fun ones, because like those are the ones that actually involve coding. So like I'd say like half the time or maybe more than half the time I'm turning in assignments that are code, but there's a lot of homework assignments and stuff where they're just testing your knowledge and you're not actually writing code. And most of the tests, or all the tests, have been like I've taken for computer science classes have been on paper. Sometimes they have you write code, but a lot of the times it's not even writing code. It's just like an example question would be like, when this situation, would you want to use like a binary search tree or like an AVL tree? And then you just like talk about the pros and cons of either one. And you have to have like an understanding of the concepts, I guess. So it's not always writing code. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to ask?
No, that's it.
Okay, so grateful, Chris. I'm really very, very, undyingly grateful for you, and thank you for letting us record. And hello to anybody who's watching this in future years. And I wish you the best of luck. Let me stop recording and stop.